and welcome to City Management Report. I'm Bridget Doyle, Community Relations Director for the City of Sterling Heights. Today I'm here with City Manager Mark Vanderpool, Parks and Recreation Director Kyle Langlois, and Finance Director Brian Baker. Today we'll be talking recreating recreation. First we'll begin with Mark. Mark, how would you define recreating recreation to someone who's unfamiliar?
Well, Bridget, it's a great question. It's really all about quality of life, and it's an important initiative to plan for the future. Let me just take a step backward and explain how this initiative came about. As everyone knows, we're very close to celebrating the city's 50th anniversary in just a couple of years. And I think most would agree that we've done a very good job. We have a great reputation of providing excellent services. We're a very safe community. We have an excellent fire department with great response times. We're a financially stable community. We provide excellent library services and so many other services. But as we start to look forward to the next 50 years, it's so important that we start focusing on the quality of life in our community. And that's recreational opportunities for residents of all ages. And so that's how this came about. We're now putting together a master plan. We're looking at all these long-range plans, and quality of life now is so important, especially coming off the heels of the Great Recession. Everyone knows what we had to go through during the Great Recession, where we were so focused on cutting costs and redefining, reimagining how we provide our core services. And we weathered that storm very nicely. Thankfully, we stuck to our sort of self-imposed emergency plan, if you will, and I commend the Mayor and City Council for staying focused on that. But that has now given us the ability to look at these quality of life services as we plan for the long term. So that's why this is so important and how it came about.
And why did the city decide to put recreating recreation on the ballot this year?
Well, that too is a good question. You know, there's never really a good time to look at initiatives like this. However, the time is right because, as I said, we have come off the heels of a very difficult period of time in our city where, quite honestly, we've had to neglect some of these services. You know, we haven't been able to put the money that we needed to in our infrastructure. We're now investing millions of dollars into our roadway system, improving roads throughout the city, major and local roads and neighborhood roads. But now is the time, since we've survived that storm, to shift and focus on another area, and that's recreation. It's so important as communities age, and we see these models across the state, and this really speaks more to your question in terms of timing. The natural evolution of a city goes something like this. A community starts out with a lot of open space. There's decades of development traditionally. Population grows. There's new housing, new businesses moving in. And then eventually a city sort of plateaus, right? And we've seen that here in Sterling Heights where we're fully developed. Even though we're still growing in population, it's leveling off some. It isn't going to go much higher than maybe 138,000 or so. We're right at 130,000 right now. But if you look around communities across Michigan and really across the country, once communities mature, there's a strong risk of a decline if you don't start looking long-term, looking at opportunities to kind of avoid that path of decline and erosion. So for example, when a community becomes fully developed, housing starts to age, populations top off, start to decline, community ages in general, businesses will tend to maybe look at other places to locate, and eventually the decline starts. And I don't want to name cities, but there are countless communities in Michigan where this has happened, and really a lot of places throughout the country. Not that these cities are bad cities, but it's sort of the natural evolution of a city. In fact, many of them are great cities, but once you start that decline, it's hard to reverse it. So here in Sterling Heights, again, the timing's important because we're kind of at a fork in the road. If we do nothing, we run the risk of just kind of aging in place as a community and starting that decline. But the community, the leaders in the community have really chosen a path of prosperity. And it's mainly through our Visioning 2030 plan, where we got together with focus groups in the community a couple of years ago, residents and businesses, and we talked about what's the future of Sterling Heights going to look like? What should we be focusing on long term so that we don't head down this path of natural evolution for a city and instead head down a path of prosperity? So the timing actually is critical that we begin looking at initiatives like this, and quality of life is certainly the centerpiece.
What does recreating recreation mean for the city long term?
Well, it really means that we're able to focus on keeping our residents here that are currently here, making sure that they have an excellent quality of life, that they have ample leisure opportunities, that they're able to enjoy focal points in the community, that they're able to better take advantage of the Clinton River. You know, the Clinton River is a big part of our plan moving forward, and it's a big part of our future. Imagine being able to kayak and canoe and tube down the Clinton River. You know, what a great attraction for all of our residents now, and newcomers are looking for that as well. You know, what a great opportunity to have our farmers market, which has been wildly successful, enclosed with a pavilion and an ice rink under it for the winter months, where people can enjoy ice skating all season long and you're not dependent on weather conditions. And so many other parts of the plan that affect our current residents of all ages. But it's also important that we be able to attract newcomers to the city as well. We want to be an attraction for families who are looking to relocate from another area to consider Sterling Heights. You know, we have a great employment base in our city, but we want to make sure that we continue to have a growing population in the community as well. So that's why this is so important.
And lastly, why is it important for all the pieces of recreating recreation to be tied together at this one time?
Well, you know, we've heard that question come up here and there, where people say, why couldn't we sort of piecemeal this and kind of plan it over a period of 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And there's so many reasons why it really isn't advantageous to do that. First of all, the costs are going to be the same or more. The costs aren't going to go down. We all know through inflation the cost to implement an initiative like this is going to grow if you extend it out over time, just from inflation alone. But in addition, we want to make sure that residents are able to take advantage of this now, not 10 years from now or 15 years from now or 20 years from now. It's so important that we have these amenities in the near future. And our commitment is, should this pass, to complete this within a 3-year period of time. So it's not going to take 5, 10, 15 years. What we've heard from the community is quality of life amenities are very important to their way of life in Sterling Heights. Those who have expressed that interest, and thousands of people have, you know, through surveying, through our master plan, through our community groups, and through all this feedback that we get from the community, no one has said, take your time and do this over 20 years. Most people want to see these amenities now, especially newcomers. Newcomers are not going to look at Sterling Heights and say, okay, if I have a choice to live in Sterling Heights or another community with all these amenities, maybe I'll just wait because I know Sterling Heights is going to do it over the next 10, 15 years. No, they're going to go to the community where, all things being equal, they have these amenities already in place. So that's why, you know, we've really felt it was prudent not to spread this out over a long incremental period of time.
Thank you, Mark. We'll move to you, Kyle. Could you tell us more about the scope of the plan? What are the facilities that are planned for recreating recreation if it does pass?
Sure. Yeah, the plan we can kind of split up into, you know, a number of different pieces, and we call it, the biggest part is the highlight projects of this program. So this is what is getting people most excited, and it's really making the needle move on everybody's scope. So first thing we want to talk about is the community center, which we believe is the true highlight of this plan. So the community center. It's 122,000 square foot, and it would be built and maintained to be the community resource that is desired by the community. It has meeting rooms. It has rooms sufficient to host the programs that we have right now that are busting at the seams. It has rooms that will contain our large-scale community-wide special events like the Veterans Day ceremony or the cultural exchange. It's basically everything wrapped up into one building that the community needs to function on the level that we want it to function on. Second, we also have in Dodge Park some of the very exciting projects as well, which is the Splash Park. That would be right by where the community center is right now. The Splash Park we're excited about because it's something that will continue to enhance the experience that people will have when they come to Dodge Park on a weekly or daily basis, whether it's coming for a picnic, just spending the day in the park with the family, or coming to one of our special events. The Splash Park is something that will be a true amenity that will enhance that experience. As the city manager already alluded to as well, we have an ice rink, a refrigerated ice rink under a pavilion that will also double as a farmer's market pavilion. So through this whole plan, we've really attempted to really maximize the utility of all of the projects that we have here. So this is a dual purpose facility. Really, it serves multiple purposes. The farmers market will have cover, which has been needed. We've had 2 great years of farmers market crowds and success, and we want to build on that. And the farmers market needs a permanent home, so that's why this is part of the project. To be able to be used as a refrigerated ice rink in the wintertime is a great piece as well, because we've spent years trying to flood natural ice rinks with very little success. The weather has not been friendly to us, and takes a lot of man hours and a lot of water to do something like that. So this is a very responsible option and something that the residents have been asking for a number of years. And as we've talked about through numerous presentations, you know, that Farmers Market Pavilion ice rink will also be the home for our Suds and Sounds tent during Sterling Fest. Will be some covering for our Treasure Hunters Market too. So it's not just a single use that's going to be put in the middle of the park, which is great. Other highlight projects include skate park, which would be located right by the court, between the court and the library. Skate park has been another amenity that has been desired by our community for a number of years, and it provides people who appreciate and enjoy adventure sports to have a place to call home. Whether you are a skateboarder, somebody who likes to ride BMX bicycles, rollerblader, those are all viable activities that would take place in the skate park. It's not a traditional skate park as people come to know, with a series of ramps and bowls that people can skate in. It's a skate plaza, so it's aesthetically pleasing, fits into the landscape of City Hall in the new city center, and that is also, as we talked about, having multiple uses. That is also a place that we believe can be used for many city gatherings, whether it's the Sterling Fest, of course, using it for the jazz stage, but also for Memorial Day parade ceremonies, things of that nature, where we can use it as a gathering space in that area of City Hall. We'll have a built-in stage, built-in seating that's all skatable. So it's completely skatable, aesthetically pleasing, and multi-use, which is great. Another great highlight project here is the dog park. So one of the first things that was asked of me when I became manager for the City of Sterling Heights Parks and Recreation Department is, when can we get a dog park? So been working on that now for over 7 years, and this is the opportunity to put that into the mix. The dog park is a great amenity, and a lot of people say, why are we building an amenity for the dogs? It's really not as much for the dogs as it is for dog owners and dog lovers. It's a great opportunity for dog owners to get out and socialize and take their pets to a place that their pets can run free off leash. It is against state ordinance to have your dog off leash in public areas, so this gives people the opportunity to have the time with their dog off leash that they desire for their pets. A lot of room to run, a lot of room to, again, socialize with other pets, and again, the owners probably appreciate it and enjoy it as much as the dogs do. Currently, the location is scheduled for Magnolia Park, which is a great facility along Metro Parkway that has great parking and great roadway access for a facility of this type for our community. The next amenity, which I think is really neat for our community, and that's the expansion of our trail system. We have a great trail system along the Clinton River, all through Dodge Park and Farmstead Park, JC Park. There's not a lot around the community otherwise, except for small paths inside our neighborhood parks. So the path that we're looking at would be an extension from Joseph Delia Park at 18 and Ryan all the way up to the Nature Preserve at the northwest section of the city would end right behind Beaumont Hospital. And that is a great multi-use path. Again, non-motorized. Runners, bikers, walkers would be able to get on a path and be able to see a different section of our city. The nature preserve is almost 100 acres and is really untapped resource. We don't want to go inside the nature center, but we want to bring people to the nature center to see what it is that we have preserved in our city. Sterling Heights is very unique. We have hundreds and hundreds of acres of untouched land, woods. In a city of our size that's built out, that is almost unheard of. So we are fortunate to have that, and we want to highlight that resource. In addition, we have some great amenities that will be happening over at the senior center as well. We want to make sure that we include our entire population in this plan, and that is what we are trying to do. So at the senior center, improvements are scheduled to be the enclosure of the bocce ball courts. We currently have 2 bocce ball courts. They're outdoor. They're subject to the weather elements and the natural elements as well. So they're right alongside the river and the forest. So our players don't play out there as much as they should or could because of bugs, because of the heat. So this will give people a chance to play bocce ball all year long. Bocce ball is a great low impact activity that keeps our seniors and residents 50 and older active and healthy, which is what we are trying to achieve through this process as well. Also at the senior center is the repurposing of a room in the active life side of the center and making it into a very, I guess, low impact fitness room would be the best way to describe it. Some basic fitness equipment, treadmills, bicycles, things of that nature, and also some resistance bands. So it's not going to be a full-scale gym or workout area, but for the seniors that are coming to our center and need to exercise a little bit more or need to work on their bone density or their muscle mass, this is going to be a great place to do that, again, to help encourage more healthy, long living cycles for all of our residents. Last thing, the highlights at the Nature Center, and that is a canoe and kayak library. So as we've talked about, we're in the process of going through a $4.5 million grant through the EPA. We're working our way up the river right now and seeing some great progress. And once this jewel in our city becomes passable, we need to take advantage of it. That's what we're going to look to achieve through this process, is to fully utilize the Clinton River for recreational purposes.
We've talked about all the parts of the plan of recreating recreation, but what needs would that solve for the Parks and Recreation Department?
It would solve a number of needs, and it impacts us on many fronts. The first thing that we want to do as a Parks and Recreation Department is serve our residents. And currently we are hampered by a number of constraints to be able to do that to the fullest extent that we would like to. So first of all, the new community center gives us a place to be that community resource that people are looking for, having a substantial office space that we need to work out of, having places for the community to gather. We can't provide that right now for our community, so that solves a really big need in our community. Another need, which we're going to talk about, probably more down the road, is our parks. Our park system is aging. We are 40, 50 years old in some of our parks, and the magnitude of improvements that need to take place is substantial, and we can't achieve that in our general fund process. So this gives us the ability to get into our park system, which is really direct outreach to our neighborhoods, and get in and make the necessary improvements that need to be made in a reasonable period of time. So it's solving a number of needs. It also gives the community a place to go. We spent 50 years focusing on programs and things for people, scheduled activities for people, but people recreate differently now. People are looking for recreation on their own time and leisure on their own time, and having the amenities that we are looking to bring as part of this plan solves that need of giving people places to go on their own time.
So we've touched a little bit on parks, but in terms of neighborhood parks spread throughout the city, what type of improvements would they see if recreating recreation does pass?
Yeah, this is where we can really get into our neighborhoods and have a direct impact on the entire city as a whole. If some people don't want to come and utilize facilities in the center of the city, our parks are spread throughout the city. So 21 neighborhood parks are scheduled to get improved in 5 major parks. Within the neighborhood parks, common improvements are going to be replacing play structures, resurfacing paths, getting new site amenities like garbage cans, bike racks, picnic tables. We want to focus on accessibility for people with who might be in a wheelchair, might have mobility issues, having picnic tables and places for people to sit at where they normally could not in the past. So we want to take a look at all of our parks and redo them. If there's a baseball field in that park, or if there's a basketball court, we want to make sure that the playing surfaces are fixed up, resurfaced, the benches are right, and that everything there is usable. We have a number of parks where there's vast amounts of concrete where there used to be tennis courts and basketball courts, and it's now rusting fence, and it's now spaces that is just concrete, eyesores, and unusable, which is what we don't want our community to look like. So those are the main improvements that you'll see at the neighborhood parks. In the major parks, there's 5 of them that are going to get improved. Again, taking the same methodology in the neighborhood parks, but extending it to our restroom facilities and redoing our pavilions that we rent and redoing the bathrooms inside to make them updated, make them usable, and make them appealing in a place, again, where people will want to come to.
Okay, and lastly, I was just going to ask you, I know as Parks and Recreation Director you might be a little biased on this one, but what do you see the benefits of public parks to people?
Public parks have a numerous amount of benefits. The easy ones that we can all, point our finger to is there's health and wellness. You can go out and you can run, you can walk, you can play sports. Those are common, those are easy things that people gain from going to our parks. But there's a number of other benefits. There's social benefits. By being in a spot where there's other people in your community, maybe like-minded people, whether it's a dog park or whether it's an athletic facility, you're gathering at a place with other people that are like you or have similar desires and wants that you have. So social capital is built by having parks in our community. You also have the fact that parks increase property values. Parks are great for communities. Parks are known to increase property values by anywhere from 10 to 20% based on your proximity and closeness to a park, as well as what kind of park it is. Neighborhood, more passive parks have much larger effect on home values than some of the more active parks, but either way, your home value is going to be higher if you live close to a park.
Thank you, Kyle. Now we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll meet with Finance Director Brian Baker.
Hey, gotta get down. Gotta get down. Can't be up there.
But there's no place to ride.
You're right, there is no place to ride around here. But did you know that the Recreating Recreation proposal has a great place in mind for all of you skating enthusiasts and biking enthusiasts? Go to our website and you can see more information about the skate park that we have planned and all the other amenities that are part of this project.
Welcome back. Now we're going to talk to Finance Director Brian Baker about recreating recreation. Brian, what would the financial impact be for the average taxpayer?
Well, if this is approved, in order to fund the $45 million of improvements, it would take a 0.97 mils that would be levied on all homeowners. How that would be broken out is roughly about 2/3 of that millage would go to pay the debt. It would be a 20-year bond to fund these improvements so that we can get these improvements done over a 2 or 3 year period as opposed to waiting for a longer period of time. And about 1/3 of the millage would fund the operations and maintenance of these facilities. So the average homeowner then would cost $63 per year in property taxes. Now, if you itemize your taxes, of course, it's less. It's on average about a little less than $50 per year that it would cost. Now, everyone's not average, so what we've done is we have a tax calculator on the city website where anyone can go in, bring it up, and enter their home value on that calculator, and it'll give you an approximation of what it would cost you per year. The good news is that taxes are still down $200 since 2008. So even if this millage does get approved, people are still going to be paying lower than what they were back in 2008.
And talking about taxes, how would you compare Sterling Heights taxes to other neighboring communities?
We have some data on this, and it's something we might be able to share on the screen, but the city of Sterling Heights has, of any of the Macomb County cities, we're at the bottom of the tax rate. So we have the lowest tax rate of any of those cities. The average, we're about 15 mils. The average is a little over 20 mils. So we're about 5 mils below the average. Many of the communities in Macomb County have 20, 25 mils. One, I think, is almost approaching 40 mils. So not only do we benchmark ourselves with other communities in the county, but we also compare ourselves to other cities across the state. Based on population, we have 10 comparable communities, and we are the lowest of any of those 10 in terms of the amount of taxes that we collect per resident.
Does the city have the financial resources to pay for these improvements with existing revenues? Or why did we decide to put recreating recreation on the ballot this year?
Yeah, that's a good question. Unfortunately, we don't have the extra funds, as many know. We've certainly had some revenue declines over the last 5 to 7 years. 75% of our general fund revenues are made up of only two sources. One is property taxes and the other is state revenue sharing, and both have been significantly reduced. We've lost, in fact, $106 million of taxable value and property tax growth that we would have seen had the housing market not collapsed. And we've lost $84 million from the state now cumulatively since 2002 due to their cutbacks. So all told, now we're in a good financial position, but as you can see, those revenue cuts don't allow us any additional money. In fact, we're down still 200 full-time employees, and that's about a 30% reduction in number of full-time employees since 2002. So going forward, unfortunately, the city only collects an inflationary amount of taxable values going forward. So in the last 3 years, property values have gone up 25%. Unfortunately, we're not capturing that revenue. We can only capture an inflationary amount on an existing property. And the current year, the inflation was only 0.3%, and the prior 2 years was only 1.6% a year. So you can see we're capped in terms of our inflationary growth, and it doesn't leave us any additional money.
Thank you, Brian. Mark, do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, thanks, Bridget, and I appreciate Brian and Kyle being here and your effort. So we've talked a lot about why this is important and the background, how this initiative came about, and you've heard about our current finances and why we can fund such an initiative with our existing resources. So now this will quickly be before the community, and ultimately the community will need to decide on this initiative. And the community will need to decide is it worth $63 on average per household to make this sort of investment in our community, which again we feel is important for all the reasons that we've discussed in this series today, but also to choose a path of prosperity, as I mentioned early on, rather than what is normally the fate for cities that have fully developed and are fully built out. And typically that fate is a period of decline. So we're kind of at that fork in the road, and the community needs to decide if this investment will help the city long term head down this path of prosperity by reinvesting in our quality of life services.
Thank you, Mark. That's all we have for today. For those looking for more information, you can go to the city's website, www.sterling-heights.net/recreatingrecreation, and please remember to go out and vote on November 8th. Thank you.